Hi there. We are now doing another tabular design review, and today we are looking at the display of tabular objects. I believe, at least, unless we have other stuff on the agenda. Do we have other stuff on the agenda?
Well, if we have
Yeah.
time, we would like to go back to schema and finish it off.
Okay, I'd like to do that too. Okay, so let's have a quick look at these graphics things. So these are different kinds of things that you want to do. There many of them are quite ugly, if I might say so, but they're conceptually nice.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay, and this icon has been fixed now, right? Has
It's
that icon been
still in
fixed?
process.
Yes, there has been one round. I don't think anything new has gone into the product. There was at least one updated
Right, you had the
implementation
triangle in the corner thing.
right, that we provided feedback on, and I don't know if Tim has had a time to do that second round of updates.
He has. I've got it in a branch
Okay.
that can be shown off.
Okay, good. All right. Okay.
But, I have a question about these icons. If only string and expression have an icon, where do I go for like the tooltip that tells me what the type is in as a text?
For other things, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, can somebody answer that, please?
Last time we talked, I thought hovering over that header cell would give you the tool.
Oh, yeah, right.
The type. Yeah.
It's going to come. Of course, we're just waiting for the schema changes to drop because then we're going to put up the schema, some of the schema information on the column.
Okay. Okay, let's take a look here. So, by the way, let me understand. Who's is this Jason who's developing this, or who?
So this is me
Jason's.
and Min and the Jasons.
And I mean, this has been driven by a regular meeting that we have called Tabular Aesthetics, first focusing on typesetting and the icons that you saw. And now there's this styling and effects language.
Okay. I have a trivia question. Since Jason must be a classical name from Jason and the Argonauts and so on, there must be a plural of Jason in Greek, and I don't know what it would be, unless it's Jasoi. Okay, that's the end of my trivia.
I'll
Interesting question.
I'll ask my friend who's a professor of classics.
Okay, good. Then we'll know. Since we have so many Jasons in the company.
Okay,
now.
so the other thing is the appearance is just a prototyping effect. So we don't. That's what I'm saying. That's not. That's
what do you mean?
I mean, rather than
the idea would be that these are full options. The appearance is just a wrapper right now, so you don't have to add new options to Tabular.
I get it.
Okay. So
right.
So kind of think
so
of
it will be really column style.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. And this is the name of the column, and then what you would put into a style thing. So I could say here, I mean, this doesn't run, does it? Does it run?
In your prototype build, that one will run.
How do I get tab?
Just it's in an initialization cell, so as soon as you evaluate that cell, it should.
Okay, so here, do I do directive or do I do list here?
Either should work, I think.
Okay.
The change of key column to key, column name to column.
I don't think that worked for me, Min. So maybe I share sooner than anticipated.
Well, I can believe this works.
Right.
Disappointing it doesn't actually work, but I believe it works.
Yeah. Internals of tabular shifting and branches.
Yeah, okay, right, okay.
Yeah. And so column style is, I mean, a lot of the options are similar to existing things, but we've tried to simplify.
Oh, I like column style, and I think that column style should be supported in grid as well. I think a row style and a column style should be supported, and in grid, they should be able to be.
I mean, we already have like 3 ways to specify these things in grid.
We do, but we probably need one that's consistent with this one.
Well, so I mean, the only thing that we could do, I think, is a numbered.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's what I would do. I would do either sparse array, like 1 goes to this, 7 goes to that, or possibly a list with automatics.
I mean, if you scroll down a little bit, Stephen. Right. I mean, so grid does that with its, item style option.
I got it. That's just that item style thing is just so, hard to use. I mean,
well, and what you're kind of hinting at is difficulty is in part because you're working in 2 dimensions at once.
Yes, exactly. So I'm just saying break it apart. And
that is a major part of the design that we came up with for Tabular here. Is, all those places where it's one big unified option, we've taken an axe to it and split it into 2.
I understand. So in the case of dataset where it can go deeper, I kind of think that we should support row style and column style for the top level of dataset. And if you want to go deeper, you use item style. Does that make any sense to people?
Has item style been extended to arbitrary depth and dataset? I'm not sure it has. Jose, do you know?
It is documented too.
Yeah. I think it does.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I just forgot that particular detail.
Right.
My bad.
My experience trying to use it has been a little bit hit or miss and frustrating, but
oh well, then those are bugs or just conceptual difficulties with dataset.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And then like we have column style, and now also that also adds row style.
Okay.
And I mean,
which
in
is
that
by
case,
number.
it is
okay.
indices.
So what you're doing there.
Well, if you have I presume if you have a key column or key columns, you could specify those, or am I just being overly optimistic?
At the moment, overly optimistic.
Okay.
But how would you say that? You would say if it was margin or if it was category arrow, if that was a key column.
No, I think you would use row key instead of the number, which is what we do in part and sub values.
I see. That's nice.
Yeah, that would
and
make
row
sense.
key then optionally takes the name of the key column first.
I think row key by default takes a list of the values, but probably you can specify an association as well. I don't know what Rob has
No, but row key, I thought row key was just saying, if I said row key here, laptops, it would default to that being the category, the row key for category.
I mean, Steven, you can only use row key if key columns are defined. And so it's fine for it to be positional. It's not defaulting to anything. It's really redundant to say category goes to laptop.
Because key columns always have to be unique.
Key columns have to be. Remember, we also, in addition to row key for row parts that relate to key columns, we allow, and this was your design and your idea, we would allow an association like category goes to laptops.
Okay, fine.
In an association.
Yep. Okay. I'm a little concerned about the syntax here. It's certainly useful, but I'm a little bit concerned about it. It's useful. It's useful.
I was going to say, can you express your concern, or is it just a gut feeling?
I'm actually more concerned about the alternative syntax. Right? I mean, I don't think we really do that anywhere else, and
we do it in replace part.
Well,
sure, but we don't do it in like any existing formatting things, right? We have lists.
I thought we did actually. I thought we did in grid.
But also in replace part, you can replace deep at certain levels, so you can't use list there, right?
I know.
And you can use general patterns.
No, right, I agree that row. Well, I mean, look, could I say X blank / semi
Yeah.
prime q of x, arrow, red. I don't see why I shouldn't be able to do that.
I believe that works.
Wow.
Okay. That's nice.
Well, then list shouldn't, I think.
Well, I mean, list is
That's often
mean,
what
lists are
something
special.
returns.
Yeah, it's often what something else returns, so I think it's useful.
right. I mean, the main issue is, if you have a key that is actually itself a list, then there's an ambiguity. Which, I mean, I guess it doesn't, that won't come up for row
Can't
style.
happen for rows.
Right.
Can happen for
Right.
columns.
I mean, for the key case, I mean, for the column cases, it could. But
But
then you
you'll
use a
have
key
to add an
wrapper or
explicit,
something.
yeah.
You have to wrap key to clarify.
Exactly.
I mean, I think it makes perfect sense for columns to have patterns because you can say something like extended key of prefix, comma blank, and then have all the columns that have common prefix be styled the same.
But by the way, notice this point that there's a blank allowed here. So in a sense, this would allow, so row style, arrow, blank arrow, that color would make everything that color, correct?
Yes, or so would that color just on its own.
Yep. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's move on.
There's lots of ways to make everything the same style.
Item style with a blank, is that something that currently works in grid and such?
Yeah. It works in data set.
No,
It works in data set. I don't think it works in grid.
I don't think it works in grid either.
I mean, there are differences between data set and grid / table views, / whatever, for a lot of these options. And part of it is that grid has, a concrete idea of what a row and a column is. Whereas data set has level 1, level 2, level 3, etc., and it decides how it's going to turn those into rows and columns.
Yes.
Right. And yes, and those blank, right? I mean, I suppose it's the same problem as delete duplicates, right? But given that item style is arbitrary length, right? Can you do blank sequence there if it has more than 2 levels? Yeah.
I believe so. I think we tried that when we were looking at it the other day.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I just want to get through the basic story here.
Yep.
And then the compatibility backwards to data set and so on is sort of a separate thing.
Exactly. Great. So you'll see, there's several things to come still. Okay. This is so item is the lowest level. It's a cell, effectively, in the grid.
Just a second. Okay. Yeah, and that's consistent with the use of item style in grid.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's nice.
I wonder where that grid is pinking.
It's embarrassed. Okay. Now what's this?
So the question is foreground or background. So this is background.
Yeah, so this is the alternating case. And so it's a bit simpler than, basically we got rid of the layer of lists that you would need in grid.
Okay, so this is cycling.
Yes. That is cycling.
List.
One level of list cycles.
I don't think that's necessarily right. I mean, I think that we need this in a lot of places, a cyclic list.
Mhm.
And I kind of think we should bite the bullet and just have a thing called cyclic list one day. And I think until we have that, these cases that want things to cycle should be hacked around.
What do you mean by hacked around?
I don't know, 2 levels of list, whatever it is. But I'd like to, maybe this is a topic.
Well, okay, so here's my thinking on it, or the way I think about it, at least. If you want to specify a different background for every column, it's just a list of colors. Then the length of the list matches the number of columns that you have.
I understand.
But
often
so
what I want to do is I want to say the first column is some special color, and then the other ones are all not. I really don't think that the cyclic thing is in any way, shape, or form a default.
And I think that in that case, a better approach is to to use the rule type syntaxes for I want this column to have this background.
Well, whatever. I mean, I just want to let's just revisit. Okay, cyclic list, something we've talked about for 25 years. I kind of think we should have it. Does Roger have an opinion about that?
Well, I agree with you. It's come up in so many places, like a gazillion places by now.
Right. So
it's probably an LCC type, or
I think it could be implemented as a structure array. We just keep a copy of the block and we just repeat the block many times.
I don't understand the implementation there, but it's certainly a data structure, a structured array. It doesn't seem, yeah.
Right. I mean, if you want to be able to take, an arbitrary, well, I guess, I think there might be a question about negative indexing, but if you want to take an arbitrary positive part of it, then, right, I think then that wants to be a structured array so that, we just say, well, I know that then the dimensionality would be infinity. I don't know if structured arrays can handle that.
Yeah, whatever.
Can we delegate that discussion to another meeting?
See, that's the structured arrays need a definite dimension.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay, so let's put this in a different meeting.
Right.
Can somebody move this?
When we do that, we need to collect all the lots of use cases for that discussion.
Right, and also the 2-dimensional cyclic array, blah 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 blah,
right.
indices, blah 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 blah.
I think that this is the kind of thing where Roman should also be involved, because if you want to make them infinite, there are probably some kind of iterator.
Okay. All right. So move that to probably an ILD meeting. Okay.
We'll make it an LCC meeting.
Okay. All right. You want to have control? Great. That's all the better. Okay.
Okay. And then same thing for back.
But I'm not completely sold on this automation thing.
Right, and if we introduce cyclic lists,
that would just be one type of notation for column background, right? Cyclic. It's a pattern. Yeah. And we can argue about the syntax, not a problem.
What does this do for grid? For grid, what's the way of getting? It's double lists, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's right. You have them both, right? It's background, right? And you need to give both dimensions, right?
It's triple list.
Yeah. Well, yes, it's per. Yeah. What Itai says is per dimension, and then you have to add an extra layer for, the multiple dimensions.
Right, because what you have this has the idea of a head and a tail. So in other words, you give a certain set of sequence of things, followed by the tail, which is the repeater.
Right.
Well, a head, a tail, and a middle.
Yeah, you can have. You can have things around it.
Yeah, grid totally supports that.
Okay, well, I think we should just copy that for now and expect that it will be cleaner when we have cyclic lists.
Okay.
Okay.
Same conversation for row instead of column.
So what happens if they're not transparent, if they don't have an alpha channel?
I believe they still blend. I mean, it's just using, I mean, under the hood, it's still table view, which is very grid-like, and that's the behavior grid has.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
grid has
blends.
had the background blending for a very long time.
Does that work well, or should we lighten on blending, or do we lighten on blending?
It is a straight RGB color blend, and you know, this is something that we've not spent a lot of time,
Yeah,
looking at in detail.
I mean, but
Okay.
it's not horrible, so it's not obviously wrong.
Yeah.
And so now we start to get into the interesting things, and I'm going to share because this is the part that really isn't showing up.
Okay. Please go ahead and ask for the share.
I did, I think.
I think we're seeing spread screen, are we not?
I think, Stephen, you have to change like your Zoom tab to see my share instead of your screen.
Okay.
Um,
What it is? Where is that?
okay, so let me get down to where we were. So
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing.
okay, so now we're looking at styling rows based on values within those rows. And so this is a case where we, at the moment, don't have sort of a symmetry between row and column.
Sorry, styling values based on what?
On
The styling
features
cells
on
based on the
content,
values.
on the content.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So this is introducing a thing currently called row format function.
Why isn't it called row style function?
Could be.
Because that would be consistent with vertex style function, all those kinds of things.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think the name is final here at all.
Names are never final.
No.
Okay, row
right.
style function, let's assume it's that. And then it's given an association, which is the row association, basically.
Right. So it gets a function that either returns a style or an association of styles.
And the association of styles would be for the different columns.
Yes. Yeah, so in this case, when margin is below 0, everything in the row is styled red.
I understand.
You can do similar things with, like, say,
So
data
a very
sets.
typical thing will be that I don't want the left-hand side thing. So let's look at what it would be in but no, you cannot do that with item style. It's got to be item style function. Oh,
Yeah.
dataset allows you to do that?
Right. So all the data set options take a
didn't know
right-hand
that.
side that is a literal function, so it can't be like a symbol
I
that
didn't
does
even know
the equivalent
I didn't
thing.
even know you could do that. We probably put that in a decade ago, and I didn't even know we could do it.
No, it's much more recent. It's when Chris Carlson did the revamp, what, 4 years ago, something like that.
Okay, half a decade.
Right.
So
On the
one
order
of
of
the
a
things-
decade.
I'll just
thing-
mention another possible way to do that is with the select discard index stuff we set up.
I know.
If you didn't
We-
want
we-
that
we-
inside the thing.
Yeah,
Wait.
we looked
Yeah.
at that. But
By the way, the discard index thing, we should look back on that, I think, because we unearthed some stuff that is problematic about it.
well, not right now.
Oh,
So
that goes in 14.2. This isn't.
Right,
but-
yeah,
but
well,
not
but we're
this
not
minute.
discussing. We're not discussing it this minute, Carlo.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So yeah. So something where it has to
So
be a
one of the
literal
things
function is
that was an
kind of
important
crazy.
design consideration is that the programmatic support in dataset and so on is like an item style function effectively. And that means that you're writing everything on a per item basis. That's very flexible, but demanding on users.
I'm sorry, say that again. What?
If you have to write a function that is a function per cell,
Yes.
you can do that, and it's incredibly flexible, but it's also very hard to use.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how to interpret that if statement. Can somebody translate that for
Okay,
me?
so slot 1 is the value itself.
Okay.
Slot 2 is the position. So, and slot 3 is the whole data set.
Yeah, so this is a weird thing.
Okay.
And so if
Right.
my current row third column, which is this one, is less than 0, then we're using red. But yeah, I mean, you've got,
It's not really for mortals.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, and eventually in this notebook, I stopped writing the data set equivalent.
Right.
Because
keep going. Keep going.
Right.
Right?
And the fact that everything has to be a pure a literal underscore
it's not
function
the right
is not
thing.
good.
It's a
Okay. Same thing with setting a background instead of just a style.
Hold on. Hold one second.
Yeah, sure.
That's not something we've done elsewhere. Vertex style. Right? Okay, we have vertex shape function, right?
Right.
Which just returns the whole way to render the graph vertex.
Yeah, it's complete flexible.
So in this case, I mean, this is kind of like face form, edge form or something. You're returning, the thing you're returning is a naked option, which is very weird. You're either returning red or you're returning background arrow blue. And
Well,
how do you return red with background blue?
you're returning a styling directive, right? So if you want that to be right directive of red.
So by default, it was styling the foreground, the content.
Okay, so hold on. So how would I style the foreground red, the background green?
You could.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
combine them with directive or even list, I think, right?
Probably.
Try list.
Yeah, there you go.
That's worse. There. Bold on the background.
Yeah.
Right. This is very natural, I think.
It's reasonable.
I agree.
I hope that somebody needs to go through and do a study of style, directive, blah, blah, blah. So directive you can use in a style in just a front end, styling a string or something. Can you?
Yes.
I don't ever do that.
You mean like
right? Basically anywhere you can
directive.
Put in a
No. Directive 35, bold.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and you could just as well have done that one as a list.
Yes.
I mean, directive is really there for those cases where you need to disambiguate whether, the grouping. So you need something other than list there.
I know, but I mean, directive is a sort of sequence-like thing for style.
Yes.
Okay. All right, onward.
So this is the case where, based on the values in the margin column, we're only styling the category.
I think this is an incredibly useful case.
Yeah, it's nice.
So in that case, it's returning an association with the column and then whatever.
Looks nice.
And by the way, I mean, I think this is why we chose row format function and not row style function, because, I don't know,
why?
Well,
because row style allows the association as well.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why I think we should just call it row style function.
Okay.
Keep going.
Same thing with data set getting, more complex.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Changing the background instead of the font color. This one is, so we're changing the background of the margin column.
Let me just read what you got.
Yep.
Can you scroll up, please?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I understand. Yep.
Yep.
Now, I mean, those things where we are.
It's going to need a
Yeah.
legend to decode. Yes.
Say
Is
that
that what
again?
you have? If you're using a color function, or something like that, I think legends, or generally speaking, what's the meaning of your colors type thing.
Yeah, that's a nice thing to have. But I also think that this is sort of being able to have a color map there is useful. I don't know if this is quite the minimal way of doing it, but it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
This is new. This is something we haven't had before.
So these are decorators, which are added to a column.
Well, it's like cell tags.
Yes, it's like cell tags.
dingbats.
Yes. Actually,
Pick what side they go to.
Yes.
Can you place them elsewhere?
Yes.
Yes.
With place,
right, so,
presumably.
Yes.
Exactly. So in this case, we have our decorator, and it's color coded as well. There's an approximation with data set, and then here is using placed to.
I get it.
Place the decorator basically.
How do I place the decorator at the beginning of the text?
In this case, it would be before.
So there's an
before.
Yes.
Okay. How did you create your little arrows?
Okay.
Although there's a little bit of an issue here that we really should be. There's a bug that we're not left aligning the strings here, and in an idea, so this example is kind of working around that bug.
I mean, so if you look at the alignment of this column without the decorators, it was left aligned.
By the way, so we are now using the alignments depend on data type, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is not something we've done before. The default alignment in grid does not depend on data type.
Correct.
Default alignment in grid is just center, I think.
Okay, so that's a nice feature here.
By the way, does that work in table view without the tabular underneath? Does table view have any notion of the data type?
Yep. Table view does have a notion of data type. But I'm not sure if you can just easily express the alignment. There are default alignments. I'm not sure if you can just easily express the alignment for a given data type, though.
Yes,
right. And that's. Go ahead.
And does it use the right alignment if your text is in God's language?
No, it doesn't.
Can we even put right to left things into the text here?
I mean, you can. Whether they display correctly sort of depends on the details of the exact box structure and how how that's hooked up to the text renderer of the currently running OS. So sometimes it'll render correctly and sometimes it'll render reversed.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so now on to the arrows. This is
just
this is multiple placed.
Right.
Placed. Saying the plural of placed is hard.
Okay, hold on a second. The gray smaller. So I'm confused by what this is doing. But what is that number? That second number. Where is that second number?
So the light gray number is coming from the margin column. So rather than using like a circle here.
Oh, I see. The decorator is itself a non-trivial piece of code.
Correct.
The decorator is not just a dingbat.
Correct.
Decorator is a singing, dancing dingbat.
Right. I mean, which is similar to this case where we were turning stuff red or green based on this column.
But
is
there,
in this case, we're just using that value directly.
Is there a way to hide margin after you've placed it there? Like, is there row format function margin goes to none, that makes it just disappear as a column. Because
Not at the moment, and I'm not sure
No.
if that should be in the format function.
No,
Right.
I think there should be a separate visibility option.
I think there
Mm-hmm.
is already a one of transformation that's hiding the column, isn't it?
I mean, JSON has a mechanism, although I think it still maybe didn't completely hide the column.
Right. You would show like two column dividers, but I think there is already a
Can Jason
general
speak to this,
mechanism.
please?
Yeah, there's no way to say hide this column, but you can just set the width really small is what we're doing now. But there should be a visible option for table view that says hide this row or hide this column. It's in the plan for table view.
Do we have a name for that option?
No.
Dataset has hidden items.
Say it again. What?
Hidden items. That's an option for dataset, and it allows you to start with a column hidden.
Well, and that suggests hidden rows, hidden columns with syntaxes similar to the sorts of things we're seeing
Yeah.
now.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
okay.
We obviously need to name the decorator.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think decorator is the world's worst name.
Yeah.
Um,
I think we agree, but it needs some kind of prefix like row, maybe.
Or item or something.
well, it is an item decorator right now. It's not a row decorator.
Correct.
I don't know whether we even
Yes.
want row decorators.
Well, I mean, I think, column decorators, I actually think, could control the icons.
Hmm.
In the headers.
So how would
But-
it say to control the icon as opposed to a background for the whole column, which is just column style?
We want to be able to style headers separately for sure. So we didn't cover that yet. I thought we had.
I mean, and we haven't spent a lot of time even thinking about the controls for headers.
But we had.
We
doesn't
have
old
symbols
table
named
form
for-
have header styles and things?
Yes.
Yes, they work.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is, potentially, going a little bit too far with what a decorator is.
Yeah, show me.
So this is creating, because it's in a function, it's calling a function that creates a graphic with
Now, what
a
if I want to
determined
get rid of the
width.
numbers? I don't want it to be a decorator. I just want that to be the thing.
So if you want that to be the thing, then it's probably not the row format function. It's probably item display function, which is an existing data set option. And one of the aspects of row format function is that like the thing that you would get on copy and paste and the thing that's sort of always visible is the entry itself.
Yeah. So these have no effect on compute.
I
Like for
understand.
graph, okay? Like graph is the same structure, even if it looks very fancy.
Exactly. Right. So that's, what you do there is the vertex shape function and so on.
Right.
Right.
I mean, there are all kinds of ways to do that, labels and shape functions and style function, vertex and edges. But none of that affects compute.
And that's what we want here as well. This
Exactly.
is an item
Yeah.
display
That's,
function.
yes, that's exactly what's here too.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So it's item decorator and item display function.
Right. And the display function just takes over. Whereas
Wait, is it a decorator function or is it a decorator? Can I look it up above? Could you show me up above? It's a function, isn't it?
Yes.
No, the function is
So that's not going to work.
right. So the function is around the association.
But that's not going to work. That's not going to work. It's not the right look. Look, what you told me you're putting an appearance here. I don't understand. We want an
Ignore the appearance. This is just a prototype thing.
yeah, okay. But I don't understand why this isn't a row decorator and a row decorator function, column decorator function. Isn't that what it should be?
Well, but it's not decorating the row or the column. Right. I mean, it's decorating items.
Well, I mean, it's because that you are saying this is under the sales column. If you don't have that sales, then every item would have the decorators. So it really, it's not an item, it's not a
Okay,
role.
so I think what it should do is it should say, okay, this is no good. This is a hack. Okay, so we take this one off the table.
How is this one a hack?
Well,
I mean,
maybe, okay, hold on. Maybe you're saying row style function, if the style, okay, what things could include a decorator? Could style include a decorator? Just generic style. Right? So
No.
just like style can include
well, I
background.
mean, it conceivably could. I mean, you could implement it as a typesetting rule.
In that case, this begins to make some sense because then it really is the style, and the style is background arrow light orange, decorator arrow blah, bold, font weight arrow bold, blah 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 blah.
Right. I mean, I think the place that you would add this first probably is to item. For the most part, with the exception of a raw style, the things that this is returning are basically options to item.
Yeah, I understand, but I mean all I'm saying is it's either it's a style directive, okay, in which case I think all the previous examples, scroll up a bit to look at the previous examples of decorator. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a style option. So, John, how horrified are you at the idea that we could have a decorator for, a generic string or something as a style option?
Kind of horrified.
Yeah, horrified. Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why we've got this decorator here, of course, is it's dependent on the margin values, and it's dependent on some of the other things. If you're just creating a style for an individual sort of item or something else like that, then it doesn't have these references, and so you create better boxes or something. So you create exactly the boxes you want. It's this general thing where we've got a decorator that's dependent on something else and need a nice syntax for it. So it's decorating dependent on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because it's like you're you think you're decorating the outside of the value, but you're actually kind of decorating the inside of the item.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is
right. The case where this was left, that position is, I mean, if you just have washers and dryers as a string, in an arbitrary location,
no, I understand.
Left and before would be
go
the
right
same.
at the thing. I understand that this is the style for the item, aka an item style. I mean, this could be an item style function, as it is here. It's a row style function. But that decorator, just like background, applies to the items. It doesn't just background the string; it backgrounds the whole item.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, your point is that we could get away with introducing decorator for item styles without having it be yet an option for
without
naked.
having to creep into everything. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we could get away with that. I think it wouldn't be the long-term solution.
I mean, this is why I feel like this is more of a format function and not a style function, right? I mean, adding decorators is not, I don't
I
think
don't
that that's
agree. I think people
styling.
are never going to think of it as look, it's either style-like or it's not style-like, and it is style-like. And the fact that decorator isn't supported in generic styles yet, I think that's okay. But I think calling it just pure plain decorator is not crazy.
I mean, if we just want to call it decorator rather than item decorator or anything else, I mean, I have no problem with that. My only claim is that, you know, I don't
mean-
think decorator to an arbitrary thing makes sense. And also the fact that we're adding this thing is why I think the name row format function makes more sense to me than row style function.
One of the things one can do with this are like footnotes. You know what I'm saying? You could, decide to, well, let's say that, for positive, you want, a subscript 1, and for negative, you want a subscript 2 or something.
Yeah.
Like a footnote.
Well, I mean, that's suggesting a complete reboxing of the content, which I'm not sure we're going for here. I mean, in principle, you could take the content and you could dress it up any way you want.
Yes.
And all of these things they resolve to the lower level option, of course, which is the Uber option, just like dataset has.
Yeah, we compiled to that.
Yep.
Right. I mean, that's the question of whether what we want is something like this decorate. Okay, so there are two options. One is, but the problem is this is really an option to the item, not to the content. I mean, a separate thing, which is the display function, is a function of the content.
Yeah.
So your footnotery, I think, would be more something, because the display function lets you take the existing content and literally turn it upside down.
Right. I think one can do it either way. So the display function probably could do something, or easily can do something, like you have male, female, and it uses those signs, for instance.
Yeah.
That would be
and display function is, for example, how we do missing, some version of missing that looks nice.
Right.
Yeah, although obviously that's an internal display function. The display function that one, applies on top of that needs to not.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
handle.
We have internal ones, and then external ones can be overlaid. I'm just making a point about, how it works.
Okay. But to me, what I'm seeing right now is the notion of a decorator as something which one day might be a style option looks fairly nice to me.
Well, and I think in general, we can think about generalizing this to other, usages of item, obviously not in 14.2, but it's not insane to do it for item in grid and item in dataset and other places.
Yes. Okay. An item is not something we're supporting at this time in Tabular, right?
Correct.
Could we?
The item is implicit in Tabular.
Yeah, but if you put an explicit item, because you see, look, item is an inside out as opposed to an outside in specifier.
I mean, this is one of those things where, yes, we could, but then
why would you want to?
Of should we? Should we encourage what might be a very bad pattern of usage for Tabular?
Yeah.
Well, no, but I mean that's the thing where you are carrying it along with the content rather than imposing it as metadata from the outside.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by a bad pattern.
Really? Why?
All the data doesn't
if
patch.
item was transparent with respect to content operations and was just held there as a piece of in-place metadata for display.
it encourages people to, if you give people two ways to do something, and one of them is just incredibly inferior to the other, maybe
Is
they
it
don't know the
incredibly
other way.
inferior?
Well,
I just want to make that one thing red, and I don't want to mess around saying it's the 13th row.
I have a very large tabular, and I've been shown one way to do this, which is to make another very large tabular with items wrapped around some elements. Except now, it's not useful for computability anymore.
I'll tentatively retract, but I do want us to remember this idea.
So one meta point here, Stephen, is that this only formats the window of things that are displayed on screen. So even if you have a million rows, this will work. What we're talking about here.
Extremely efficiently.
Okay.
At least as long as your formatting function
the item thing work efficiently.
As long as your formatting function isn't stupid.
No, we can make the item thing. We can make item things work like that too.
Okay. All right. Fine. So I think that's a future enhancement. Okay, but let's keep going here.
Okay, we're almost at the end. So.
Well, okay, hold on. So what we're talking about then is decorator becomes a style option that right now is merely for item uses of style.
Yes. It basically becomes an option of item, like background is.
Yeah, okay. Okay, good. I think it's nice.
Okay.
What's that? Could you show me how you get that? That's placed somewhere else? No. Well, that one. Okay.
So
hold on. No. Okay. Yes. All right. But I mean, I
that
might
thing,
want
that thing looked at the whole distribution and just show where your data point is in that whole distribution. Jim?
Right. So this one outside of the tabular, you looked at all of your data, created a baseline plot, and then the decorator is overlaying that via a simple show.
Well, hopefully that can be packaged in a nice WFR.
And and I said, you could make bad styling functions. This is an example of where the naive styling function might really torch productivity, but this is, what's been implemented here is a very nice version of it, and should be nicely performance.
How can we do this in a way that isn't? Okay, hold on. I mean, if I had the where is the P? Where's the G? Sorry, I don't see where the G is being. Oh, I see. The G is in there.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's just that the G is evaluated just once.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which we could in principle do with a once.
Yes.
So that could be modularly implemented. So I'm saying so that you didn't have to have those, because what I'm thinking about is
self-contained.
Imagine what's that? Yeah, a self-contained thing that could be a WFR, for example, for this. And I also would like to say that, like you have all those gauges, Roger.
Yes.
Things like this remind me of that.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what they were developed for to a large extent.
Right.
We just didn't do this part of the use case.
No, I understand. So I want to make sure that a gauge would fit in there. Right. If you had a gauge from min to max.
They do.
Yep. Horizontal gauge or
the horizontal gauge of what argument? Of hash petal length.
Yes. And you would you presumably have some way to have to get what the min and max, whether 0 to max or something.
How would you get the min and max petal length?
Either out front, or it would have to be done with item display function. Because item display function is the function that gets the whole tabular as an argument. Whereas the row style function only gets one row at a time.
Yeah, but is this, I mean, is this using the same machinery as transform column? Because if that's the case, then presumably one can instrument it to have the stuff we discussed in terms of column-wise value and
That's
column-wise
interesting.
spread. So that we could get the min and max there. One go.
I think we need to figure out how to get the min and max there. I mean, there's nice functionality, but let's figure out how to get that to happen.
Right.
Okay, onward.
Okay. And that's the end of the examples.
So what I realize now, we didn't do a lot of header styling.
Right. We didn't look at any of the header stuff.
Okay, for the future then. But that's
Yes.
also often important.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's like, background and, font attributes and.
Yeah. We're running into time for a different meeting. So is there
Okay.
more stuff that...
Yeah, there is the schema stuff that we
All
absolutely.
right, let's have a very quick look. Hold on, let me share.
Yep. Okay, you can stop sharing.
So even so, before we start with this, the thing I wanted to say about
We don't
selecting
get
this
to
card-
start. We get to do this very quickly only.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, what do you want to say here?
About this stuff, there are where you see the bullet points, we have some questions. So what
Okay.
do we do, for example? Do we want a way to have column keys automatic and have them have some auto-generated
Column keys
names?
is not really in quotes, right?
It is in quotes. Because
but you
that's a
shouldn't-
short form of an association, really. They're not options. It's metadata.
Okay, so please put it in association in all examples.
Okay.
Okay.
But if there's only one item,
I understand you can elide it, but please put it in an association for all examples.
Okay. So, question one, do we want column keys automatic?
What does the word missing mean there?
We don't know. There's something
That's
broken.
some
Okay,
glitch
it's a
with the
breakage. It's a
typesetting.
bug. Okay, fine. So I
Yeah.
shouldn't look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's just to do with the decorator.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Okay. So the question is, if there is in fact no key name for the column, how can there be no key name? These things are ultimately associations.
Oh no!
No. We support matrices and lists, matrices as well. That was one of the.
If you make a
design
tabular
things.
from a matrix.
Okay, my suggestion would be that instead of untitled one, which sounds like, a blank oil painting canvas or something, that we have a Unicode character followed by a 1.
And how do you type that Unicode character?
However you type the Unicode character.
Yeah, dude, don't we have something like this already for import of CSV?
Yeah.
Well, it's for columns that are missing. Only some columns in the header of CSV can be missing. Then we have the column and the index of that column.
So it says column
That's
1 or something.
Yes. If the first one is missing, it's column 1.
And that was your original specification for that.
You say, who's the you? Is that me?
Yes, Stephen. Yeah, you came up with
Okay.
that. Column 1, etc.
It's more sensible than untitled one. Untitled
Yeah.
one is oil paintings.
Now, I was thinking about the when you open a new document.
I
Yeah.
know, but that's a different
Yeah,
thing.
fair. But I think column keys goes to automatic should just say column 1, etc. And that's a good
That
idea.
makes sense to me.
Okay. Do you like the one with the list automatic foo, doing foo 1, foo 2?
We have a column name prefix for CSV import.
That sounds much more sensible to me.
Yeah, but it's I'm
Automatic.
worried that if you use something like prefix, well, first of all, how would you specify that here?
You'd
With another
add
key.
column key prefix goes to.
Right. This is an
No,
association. You can put whatever you want in it. Please
No,
don't do
no,
automatic
no,
comma
this
foo.
is- But
Why?
no,
Why?
okay, let's not do it. But the prefix is problematic because it's also what we call it in extended key. So it's not clear that it becomes a smooshed together string rather than an
Okay,
extended.
so why don't we call it column name prefix?
Yeah, but okay,
that's a more complicated conversation, but we definitely do not want the syntax where you have this weird, jokes by lists type thing. Okay, next. What do we want to do when someone tries to set the wrong number of column keys?
So you have 3 columns, you say you just specify 2. What happens?
I think you default to have column 3.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's settled. Good.
What's the question here about the type specifiers?
Well, there are several.
Is this something that's critical to rush through right now, or can this wait till Thursday? I'm just thinking.
More critical than anything else we talked about today. We need it now.
Okay.
All right.
I wasn't aware that all the stuff we were talking about wasn't going in 14.2. Otherwise, we would have started with this.
Yep.
Okay, can I just understand? Wait a minute. What are the separate things we have to do here? The first thing is the type system, right? Am I correct? Which of these items are about the type system? They're not all about the type system.
The first.
Okay, which ones are not about the type system? Do we still need column
The
indices?
4 bottom ones are about the type system.
Oh, you mean the 4 top ones?
The 4 no, the first 3 are about the type system.
Okay.
And the bottom 3 are not.
What's the it?
This column key thing is a pattern, but also it's not clear what is matching. Like it's not a real pattern, because sometimes you can use the name, sometimes you use type specifier. There's no way of using both. So I find it awkward.
Okay, so hold on. Column keys, the second argument could be a cases against the list of column names, correct?
Yes.
And that's the default. And what you suggested was when we didn't want to have those cases, we want to have a type dependent, we just put the type specifier around the thing.
Yes, so it's cases unless, except in the special case of type specifier.
Right, it's a special case, which I think it works. To me, it seems very sensible.
I mean, if I were to attempt to divine from tea leaves what Carlo's objection is, he wants to be able to somehow look for columns whose names start with FO or maybe are named foo and are of type integers, and there isn't a way to do that right now. Am I correct, Carlo?
Yeah, apart from the fact that I find it kind of inelegant, the fact that these are all two separate patterns, do 2 separate things, and it's not.
And you just want to give a general schema specification for that second argument.
Okay, so here's a possibility. Column keys, the second argument of column keys, could be matching not against the column name, but against the whole column specification. Do you see what I'm saying?
Against the schema.
Which is the schema, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then if you do that, it's much simpler to do it via a function.
Are column names always strings?
No.
Okay. I mean, I guess this doesn't solve the problem in general, but is it currently supported to do something like type specifier of reals or foo to look for both things?
No, that's not currently supported.
And the other thing is that, there's a bunch of other things, like I don't know how much of this appearance stuff was going to make it into the schema, but what if I want to get all the columns that are real and...
Okay, let me just be clear here. If this thing is matching against, if conceptually column keys as second argument is matching against the schema association, okay? Carlo, are you with us?
Yeah.
Then, and it's a pattern match, then what we will be saying is something like, what is the name of the type in the schema? What's it
element
called?
type? Element type.
Oops.
As opposed to column type.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. And then what's another thing that's in here? What's another thing that's in the metadata?
Nullable.
What's that? No, I don't care
Nullable.
about that. I don't care about that. Give me something real here. The name of the column. What's the name of the column?
The column
That's-
name of the column would be outside of that association.
Yeah.
As
See,
the
that's
left-hand side
an
of the rule.
association for each column.
Okay, but I mean, we could imagine putting in conceptually to this association column name arrow. Foo.
Then yeah, it would be column
Yes.
key. Yeah, column
Yeah.
name. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Column name
key
or
would
column
be
key?
better.
Yeah, I would
Which
argue
one?
that
Column name or column key?
Column key.
Okay. All right. So let's assume that it's this.
Yep.
And that's what we're conceptually matching against with a variety of elisions. So, for example, I don't know how association matching works in the case where, but let's imagine that we just said that this is the full form, column key arrow foo. Okay,
I
so
think
if you
that-
want to match both against element type and against column key, use the full association form. We could
I mean, technically it would, I would want to be a key value pattern, but
What about a function where it's like
That's
slot
why a
element
function
type,
is so much nicer,
slot
because
column key?
then it's like transform columns in a sense. But
and also
Okay, tell me how
function
that
allow-
would work. Wait a second. Sean was saying something, then Rob was saying something.
Then
Say it
you would
again.
say hash element
Shit.
type equals integer.
Carlo, I wasn't aware that you were also called Sean. Sean,
Sure,
what
yeah.
were
I'm
you
just
saying?
saying that the second argument for column keys should be a function, and you can refer to hash element type or hash column key in that function.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
So go ahead.
yeah, and then
Color.
it's like a select, which is just lovely, I think.
And do we keep the alternative naked string alternatives and type specifier as special cases that are interpreted differently, or
We could. I'm not sure I'm thrilled with that, but I think we could do it.
Seems unnecessary if we go forward with this function thing.
I
okay?
kind of agree.
Yeah.
But then it's got to be string match q hash element type, comma, real star. It's not going to be equal to real star. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be string match Q.
Okay. All right.
But that
Right.
I think that it's good in that sense that it makes it complete. It's a little more long-winded to type, but it
Well,
makes
I
it
mean, we can
completely
come up with
unambiguous.
elisions later, but this is a
Yeah.
fine thing. Okay, now
Okay.
the question is the data types. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the full inventory of compiler types versus, do we have a table somewhere of compiler types versus tabular types? Versus, I mean, there's so many types in the system. I mean, there's so many places where, neural nets use different types, blah, 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 because types are fundamentally pandering to the low-level, hardware and other systems that are available.
Right.
And arrow types are absolutely critical.
But we did have a table like that. Is it somewhere
Yeah,
in this
it's
agenda?
in a
Rob?
ref page for column types now, which used to be an option, but with the schema is no longer an option. So we have to figure out where to put that. But if you look up the ref page column types, you
From
should be able to
sources,
see
from
that
sources.
list. Oh, from the
And you don't
document
need to
tools, yeah.
update. It's not changed for a while.
What is it called? Column types?
Column
Yes.
types. Yeah.
But we are definitely getting rid of the options for the tabular schema, right?
Yes.
All right, but I don't know what the compiler types are. I can bring those up.
Right.
Which
So
of-
all the numerical ones, with the exception of automatic, are obviously compiler types.
Yep.
Machine integer, machine real, Boolean, byte array, those are all definitely. List vector is a compiler type. String is. I don't know about
Right,
type, quantity,
Date
and
is
date.
not a, yeah.
Date and time are not. Those,
Okay,
but
but they
everything
will
else
be one
is
day.
right. And I think quantity could be too, the way
Yeah,
we've presented
I
it
think
here.
so too. I mean, so
Yes.
the only question is there, whether they are supported on day one in the compiler as well is not as relevant as whether, I mean, if there's something incompatible with the types with the compiler, that's one thing, but it doesn't look to me like there's anything
No,
incompatible.
I've worked very hard to keep it as compatible with the compiler as possible, and you know, and a lot of it is actually implemented through the compiler. So
fine. All right. So there's nothing
Is
more
this
to talk
is this
about
a
there.
strict superset, Rob, of the compiler types?
I'm sure it's
yes.
No, there are compiler types that we don't support in Tabular, I'm sure.
not. I mean, isn't there like a whole slew of
No.
parametric
The
types? And
well, the thing is, the compiler is extensible. So
Yeah,
Right,
right. So
so-
obviously
so
we
you can
don't.
define. You can
Right, I
define
mean, for
any
example, we can have a whole
I mean,
record.
right. There are definitely right. There are definitely, well, there are documented compiler types like, you know, whatever tree,
Yeah.
KD
I'm
tree
sure-
and whatnot that are not right. So it's not a strict superset, but I believe I think I hope and believe that the intersection of this with the compiler is, you know, all the types are identical. And then there are just a few
Yes.
here that are not compiler types yet, like
Right.
time and date.
Exactly.
When it is
But
a
I-
superset is of the compiler native types, like
Okay, yeah, I
Okay.
guess I wanted to ask that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's a better version of my question. And I have another question. Like, it looks like you updated the syntax, which is not here. Like, to actually use type specifier.
Guys,
Yes.
I gotta run.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
and
Okay.
that was
Okay,
that
cool.
was a bug
Sorted
before
out.
that it didn't use type specifier.
Great.
But you can specify with either
Okay.
type specifier or not. and it'll
Progress
be
is being
figured out.
made. Well done, everyone.
Yeah.
Talk to you all soon.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Okay.